During the early years of the NES, Nintendo tried their hand at many different series across varying genres. Some were huge successes like Super Mario, Zelda and Metroid, whilst others seemed to fade into obscurity only to make brief appearances in Super Smash Bros. Like Ice Climbers and Clu Clu Land. Kid Icarus had all the stars aligned to fall into the former and be a huge asset to the big end. It had the platforming of Mario, the acquirement of items like Zelda, and the shooting of Metroid. Even with its solid pedigree, Kid Icarus was never the success that it deserved, and apart from a Game Boy sequel, the series went into hibernation for 20 years. Now Nintendo are gearing up for Kid Icarus to take flight once more, with Uprising just around the corner. So they've re-released the original in the 3D Classics lineup. Being an early NES title, the story is beyond basic and serves no real purpose, but it didn't need to back then. Playing as the Angel Boy Pit, you're summoned by the Goddess of Light and tasked with taking out Medusa and her armies by ascending from the underworld, armed with only a bow and arrow. You collect many upgrades and new equipment as you progress, which is where the Metroid likeness comes into play. Unlike both Metroid and Zelda, however, Kid Icarus is very much a linear game, with the main objective to get from point A to point B, having the occasional boss battle. But your main enemy will become the screen itself, and that's where Kid Icarus starts to become more trouble than it's worth. The jumping doesn't feel as natural as Mario, with platforms that require precise leaps of faith so late on in the endurance-natured levels. Kid Icarus ends up becoming a jack of all trades and a master of none. This 3DS update, however, is just as hard as it's ever been, and it now has a proper save feature instead of a password system, which is a nice addition, but this in turn means that you can no longer punch in cheats to access later items and levels. Don't get me wrong, that's great for anyone who wants a challenge, without the temptation of using a cheat code, because believe me, Kid Icarus is as old school as they come. But if Nintendo are trying to introduce and ease new players into the franchise, then this re-release might have the opposite effect, turning them away because of its sheer difficulty. As far as the port itself goes, well, it looks pretty fantastic. The colours are crisper, the animation is sharper, and it's even got a fresh lick of paint in the background, no longer just a black slab of nothing. The 3D effect is, well, unnecessary, but it certainly doesn't hinder the experience, it just gives the foreground and background a couple of layers. With or without the 3D on, it's just nice to see Pit's world look so much more vibrant, keeping the same style but making it feel fresh at the same time. While it may still be a surprise to many why Kid Icarus never shared the same success of his other Nintendo franchises, 25 years on with a small 3D update, Kid Icarus still flies strong where others have aged and fallen.